I was standing outside the hospital room and I was shaking a little bit and I was a little lightheaded and I was gripping on to my rabbi's manual and my patient list. And I proceeded to give myself the same pep talk I'd given myself about a dozen times already that morning on that first day of visiting patients in the hospital. Rachel, they're supposed to be the ones who are scared in that room, not you. All you have to do is look at the name of the patient on the list, go inside, do some reflective listening, repeat back their feelings, and if all else fails, just pull something out of your rabbi's manual. It shouldn't be that hard. I had been awkwardly navigating my way through visits that day, making meaningless small talk with patients, lingering a little too long in rooms where patients hadn't yet woken up from surgery and couldn't talk, and feeling guilty about feeling relieved when I would walk into a room and no one was there, because I could still take these little slips of paper that said, "Sorry, I missed you," and put them on the nightstand, check the patient's name off the list, and consider it a successful visit. It was a few months prior that one of my rabbinic mentors said to me, "Rachel, you're afraid of hospitals. That's very interesting. Have you considered spending a summer doing hospital chaplaincy?" Which was really his nice way of saying, "Rachel, as a rabbi, you need to be with sick people and their families. You are going to spend the summer working in a hospital." And there I was at the last visit of my first day, and I was physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausted. Looked at my patient list, saw the guy's name, took a deep breath, went into the room. "Hi, I'm Rachel from the chaplaincy office." "¿Quién es usted?" I hadn't taken Spanish in about 7 years. They don't really teach you that in rabbinical school. And so I said, "Hola, ma shlomcha?" No, that's Hebrew. ¿Qué quieres? Soy Rachel. What are you watching on your televisia? "Señorita, yo tengo mucho dolor. ¿Me puede ayudar?" And I had no idea what he was saying. "Lo siento, I'll try and come back and visit you again later." And I left that room, grabbed my stuff from the chaplaincy office, got in the car, and drove home without looking back. When I got home, I picked up the phone and called a friend of mine who had done chaplaincy the summer before. And as the phone was ringing, I was thinking, wow, you really suck at this. Every other person you know is having a fine time doing this. All your friends did it. It worked out well for them. Every rabbi you know can visit sick people in the hospital, but you can't do it. And when I heard, "Hey, Rachel," from the other end of the line, I lost it and I started sobbing and gasping for air into the receiver. "Rachel, it's okay. Did I tell you about the first night I came home from visiting patients in the hospital? I climbed into my bed, curled up in the fetal position, and cried like a baby all night. If you don't believe me, ask my wife. And the rest of your classmates feel the same way right now. And if they say they don't feel that way, they're either lying or they're doing something wrong. This is really important work, and it is really hard." He was going to be a great rabbi. He made it through that summer visiting patients. He knew how to talk to people. I was going to cry myself to sleep in preparation for day 2. I moved on through the next few days and tried to get through them without crying and with the right words. One day I was paged to the room of a patient who had just died, and I expected to go meet with a family who would be sitting there, and I would offer them some words of comfort and be on my way. When I entered the room, however, I was immediately met with dizzying screams and cries and angry shouting from a number of large, impassioned Pentecostal women. There was a woman in front of me sobbing with her hands on her head, shaking it back and forth. The woman to my left was sitting in a chair, rocking, staring at the pages of her Bible and speaking in tongues. And there were two other women who were pacing back and forth, screaming, "He isn't dead, this isn't possible," and shaking their arms so violently that I actually had to take a step back to avoid being hit. And I knew that saying something like, "I'm so sorry for your loss," or "This must be very difficult for you right now," or "You seem to be very angry," was going to be a great way to have the phone that I was staring at on a table ripped from its cord and thrown in my direction. And I actually began to strategize whether I could duck fast enough to avoid being hit by it when a tall, strong-looking man, the ex-son-in-law of the now deceased patient, walked into the room. "Enough! This is not how we respond in the face of death. Stop the screaming, stop the shouting, stop the crying, get over by this bed and hold hands immediately." And the screaming stopped and the crying stopped, and I went over to that bedside and I grabbed the hands of the people next to me. And I waited for the next instruction. "Let us pray." And everybody bowed their heads. And as the words began to flow effortlessly from his mouth, I looked down at the patient in front of me and I thought, thank God someone knows what to do in here. But that someone's supposed to be me. I'm supposed to be the one helping this family, not this guy helping me. When am I going to figure this out? I trudged on through the next few weeks. Ups and downs, bad days, and okay ones. And at the end of the summer, one of the real, full-time Christian hospital chaplains asked me to go visit one of her Jewish patients. "She's dying, so I need you to come to the room right now." So without any time to prepare, but with my rabbi's manual in hand, I got in the elevator and walked down the hallway to her room. And I hesitantly entered this dimly lit room, and in front of me was a woman lying in a hospital bed, struggling to breathe, eyes closed, very pale, clearly moments away from her end of a battle with cancer. And next to her stood her wife and her daughter. They didn't want any prayers of healing, which was good because there were none to offer. What they wanted was some way to take this moment, this liminal time between life and death, full of unknown and pain, and to make something meaningful out of it. And everyone in the room, except perhaps me, believed that I was the one who could facilitate this. So I turned in my rabbi's manual to the vidui section, the end-of-life rituals, and I began to go through the motions, reading prayers and psalms, Hebrew, English. And then I got to the words, the last words that a Jew is supposed to say before dying. Also, the words I remember as a young girl standing next to my grandmother in temple and covering my eyes, singing next to her. And the first words that we teach our religious school students when they begin their Jewish studies. And I took a deep breath, and together we sang, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. I did not win any Chaplain of the Summer awards, and I still really struggle with this part of my job. Sometimes I come up with the right words, and sometimes they are so very wrong, and I am jealous of people to whom it comes easily. And I want to be better, I strive to be better, but I also remember the words of one of my teachers early on in rabbinical school, who wrote on the chalkboard one day the letters G-E. G-E, he said to us, do you all know what it means? This is very important. It stands for good enough. As much as you all want to be, you are not going to be great at everything you do as a rabbi. Sometimes the best you're going to be is good enough. Remember that.